Hello glass fans. In this video we're going to make a blue heart pendant with a swirl on it. I'm starting out with a 12mm rod of Chinese dark cobalt glass. As I first put it into the flame, I'm going to want a nice bushy flame that's heavy on the propane, and lighter on the oxygen, and consequently more yellow. That means not as hot, so I don't want to shock the rod right at first because the rod is cold and I'm putting it into a fire. So I'm going to make it the least hot fire, and as I see the rod starting to heat up, then I will add more oxygen into the flame, and it'll be a tighter blue flame until the rod is hot enough to actually work with. Next I'm going to add a stripe for the swirl. This is a Borobatch blue rod called Hurricane Strike. It's a striking color, so you'll see it become a much lighter color of blue. Although the exact shade is going to vary based on how it's worked. So I just painted it on there, and now I'll start to melt it in. I'm thinking I'm gonna completely encase that Hurricane stripe under a layer of 8mm Chinese clear glass. Once I work that all in together, it's going to give depth to the stripe on the finished product. But first, I'm going to add a few flecks of butterscotch frit. See, I'm picking them up with my left hand. I'm going to put them on this soapstone working surface and just roll them into the rod. This way you don't get a lot of frit, but just a little. So I'll heat up the rod and just roll that frit into it. And now on with encasing the color stripe in clear. I'm actually just going to aim to get one side of the Hurricane Strike stripe with this first pass of clear. So what will happen is part of the Hurricane Strike is still exposed and part of it's encased under glass. As I work the rod around, it's going to melt into the cylinder with a little edge of the Hurricane Strike color still coming up to the surface. And then later when I encase that also, after having let it cook in the fire for a little while unprotected, you'll see two different color variations in the finished product. It actually looks like a turquoise blue where it was encased early, and the part that I let cook turned almost white. So it looks like there's two colors of stripe there. But it's actually one striking color with a variation due to the way it was worked. So it's nice and hot and uniform now. I'm going to make a second stripe on it with this clear and to encase the edge of Hurricane Strike that I let bleed up to the surface. And at this point it's usually messy, so I'll make a couple extra passes just to make sure I got it all. I can see where the color is bleeding up to the surface because it glows extra bright, or it glows differently from the surrounding colors. Done encasing. Now I'm gonna work on the rod until the colored portions have rolled up into a ball, and then I'll get a punty and start twisting it to make the color stripe swirly. Then I'll take it off of the stick. I'll use punties to take it off of the blue rod, and then I'll swirl it one more time. Then it'll be time to start shaping it into a heart. I am pulling the end off the punty. It probably had some trash in it. I'm making it all nice and clean so it won't leave any marks on this piece I'm working on. And I'm making two of them so I can pass it back and forth between them while I'm twisting it. That silver tin back there is my trash tin. It helps keep the table neater. Although my table is pretty neat in this video. Oh, you should see it today. Perhaps I'll film a new video. This one was filmed on April 25th, 2021. And I'm narrating it today, October 27th, 2021. after that first video I did with Wondershare Filmora. It's awesome! And so I decided to do another one right away. I told you I have a big library and there'll be more coming. I'm so pleased that this program can handle everything I needed to do, and it doesn't lose all my crap at the end. Yay! It even has cool little features, which I'll play around with some more in upcoming videos. Alright, so I'm fixing to grab hold of the end of this ball and twist it to give it the first part of the swirl it's going to have. As soon as I think it's hot enough. And the end of the punty also needs to be the right temperature. And I'll stretch it out a little bit as I twist it. It helps to get the twist even, because when you're heating it up in a ball, the middle doesn't heat up as much as, you know, the inside or the outside. And to get a nice even twist, it needs to be heated all the way through. So I stretch it out a little bit until, you know, it's a uniform thickness. And then I twist it so that it has a nice even spiral. You can see it there for a second, so I'm not evidently very aware of the camera field. This one was filmed with my phone attached to a different light fixture with a selfie stick. It came out pretty good, but I don't think that the camera angle is as good. Alright, I have taken the blue wad with the swirl off of the 12mm cobalt stick. So now I can start to work it in the round. I'll bunch it up into a ball using that cool marble mold that's next to my palm. I love that thing. It's a stainless steel cube with different marble sizes on each side. Once I have it in a nice ball or marble shape, I'll probably give it one or two more swirls. I don't want to do it. I mean, I don't want to overdo it with too many swirls, but I want the swirl that I put in to have a nice cant so that it goes from top to bottom and all the way around, and maybe around another half time. But I also want the punty to be attached at the right point so that the narrow end of the swirl goes down and dangles off the bottom of the heart. I mean the pointy part. You'll see. So sometimes I'll swirl it twice and then I'll look around and find that the punty needs to be attached at a different part, which I want to be the bottom later as I start to shape out the body of the heart. And I let it cool off much of the way so that I can see how the colors are looking. When you get the whole thing really hot, it looks totally different. I mean, especially if you're working with a dark color, like cobalt blue or black and clear, in the glasses and the fire, when the whole thing is hot, dark blue and clear are clearly two different colors because they're glowing two different colors. But then when you let it cool off, you can't see because the clear just blends in with the blue. And so when you thought you had a very nice looking swirl and you let it cool down, it actually turns out to be a swirl you can't see. That's why I let it cool off sometimes when I'm trying to figure out which part's going to be the bottom. Which part do I accentuate? I have selected the part that I want to be the bottom, I think. So now the puntee is attached by that point. I think we're going to start shaping the body of the heart right after it becomes a symmetrical ball again. Nope, I guess it needs a little more twist. So I've started shaping it into a heart. It needs to be teardrops shaped to start off with, so I'm heating the part which is attached to the rod, which is going to become the bottom, in order to make the top part more teardrop shaped. And then when the angle is to my satisfaction and the whole thing is nice and hot, I'm going to smush it, not too much, or else it'll come out flat. I used to make them really flat, but now I like them more three-dimensional heart-shaped. So they should have a body that's thickest at the middle and rounded at the top, and only narrows at the bottom. So if I've over smushed it, I work it back out so that it plumps up again, because when you heat glass, it contracts into a ball. And I'll keep on hanging it up so that the tapering part keeps itself straight, because if it gets crooked, it's really hard to correct that. It's much easier to keep it straight by continually hanging it. And now I'm going to start working on the lobes of the heart. There's a couple of different ways to do that, but for this one, I have an X-Acto knife. I like about a carving set of them from Harbor Freight. And so this one's a little longer on one edge, and I will heat up the top half of the heart only and indent what's going to be the middle part between the two lobes. I will do it in a couple or a few different small attempts, because if I just made it really hot and then shove the X-Acto knife down in the middle, it would completely misshape everything. I want the lobes of the heart to stay plump. So I will indent it with the X-Acto knife, oh so gradually, and hang it as I go along. And I won't let the whole thing get too hot, because it'll start misshaping the bottom part, especially as the bottom part is more narrow than the top part. If it gets hot, it's weaker and it heats up faster. As much as possible, I'll try to keep the bottom part cold while I work on the lobes. So I let it cool down for a second and took a look at how the stripe's looking. And now I'm back to work on the lobes. As you spin the heart, sometimes the two lobes lose their squareness because the centrifugal force on them. Have to go back and square them up using a flat surface carefully. And then let them hang a little bit more to regain that, like the natural shape. And I'm going to extend out the bottom a little bit more before I add on the loop that it'll hang by, which will be made of clear. And I'm adding on the loop that it'll hang by. I just stick it to one of the lobes, probably the one that looks smaller at that point, and draw it out. And then I use this tool to shape it into a loop. And now I'm gonna mess with it for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. It's one of those things. Is it straight? Not quite straight. Is it straight? Now it's leaning too much to the inside, the outside. It's not square to the body. Sometimes you lay these on just right, and you don't even need the tool. They just roll themselves down into a loop at the top of one of the lobes. And then other times, and it probably has to do with flame size, you know? And then you just heated it a little too much, and so you need to square up the form and the hole again. But then it's a little bit crooked. So you maybe want to press it squarely so it's perpendicular to the body of the heart, you know. And then, does it look straight yet? Yes. Wait, squaring up to the bottom of the heart. Maybe now. A little more. It's pretty good. Maybe I'll just lift it up a little bit. Make sure the hole stays plenty good. I mean, plenty big. I don't consider them good unless they're big enough to put, you know, the end of a chain, a clasp through there. Alright, so I have these little baking tins. You get them at the dollar store. So as I finish removing this heart from the punty, I'm going to roll it out until the bottom is thinner and thinner and thinner, and then it's going to fall off. And so this tin gives it a nice, soft, clean landing space so it doesn't bounce off the tiles that are the surface of the table or get dirty. And then I'll probably mess with the bottom for like 5 or 10 minutes until it looks square and straight and nicely tapered. And there it goes. I get the pliers and hold it up and see how well I did. You'll see me put it down and pick it up several times. The way that it sits on a flat surface tells me how uniform, you know, the bridge of it is. So I thought the bottom got a little long, which is common. So glass constricts and plumps up when you put it in the fire. I'll make it hot until the bottom constricts, and then I'll get a punty and try to pull it out to a nice, even, perfect taper, exactly like I want it. But it will probably take a couple of tries to get it right. So once I've got most of the bridge and the taper right, then I try to just heat up the little tip that I'm still trying to fix. That may be it. Or maybe one more. Looks like we're getting pretty close though. Ta-da! That's it. Want to see it? So there's the broad side of the swirl, and as you only look at the back, it's nice too. It's got thinner swirly lines on it. And there's a swirl that goes all the way down to the base. And that's it. Let's see how the sun shines through purple. Thanks for watching. I'll have more videos soon.